In this lesson, we'll apply some formulas to the left and right subcomponents. Alright, so let's get to work on these left and right. So we're taking care of this bottom piece. So double click on your main component here, click on your left side. I'm going to right click and expose my attributes. So what I want to do here, my positioning, we're A-okay with that positioning because I definitely want to start my model at this origin. So I don't want to adjust anything as far as its positioning, but I do want to tweak the sizing. And the great thing about building it the way we did was we already see some of the values in here, so we know exactly what's what. So for our length x here is 0.75, which is this length here, which is our material thickness. So I'm just going to say equals bookshelf, because remember we're referencing the bookshelf, exclamation mark, MATL thickness. So we'll go. I'll hit tab, and there we go. It should maintain that value there. So if I come here, this value should be 12 once we type in the correct formula. And we know that from here, green length y, moving in this green axis in this direction, is going to be our depth. So I'm going to go ahead and say equals bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet, depth. Making sure everything is spelled correctly. I'm referencing the right piece. Everything along the y-axis is my depth. Go ahead and hit tab, and we're in good shape. 12 inches. So far, so good. So we got 60 inches here. Whatever formula we plug in should stay at 60, and there shouldn't be any extra bouncing around. So we want the length x, which basically means how tall this baby is. So go ahead and highlight that. Equals bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet height. And I'm going to double check, equals bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet height. Hit tab, we should stay at 60, and we do. So we're in good shape. So now we can now control this side here. So now what I want to do is I want to jump to this side. This one's going to be a little bit different because of the positioning here. And a little bit earlier in our course, I kind of mentioned how we're going to be using a formula where it's going to be, something twice that material thickness. And I think this is going to be that example here. So what we want to do is want to go ahead and try to focus our attention on that right side. And we want to start off with our positioning here. And it's going to be the positioning on the x-axis. So what I want to do here, we'll go ahead and say we want this to be, this positioning needs to be the bookshelf width, in our case right now, is 5 feet minus this material thickness so that it's placed correctly. So go to its position on the x-axis. And we're going to keep an eye on what's going on here. We want our value to be the same as this value. We want to make sure there's no funky movement of this geometry. So we're going to go ahead and say equals bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet width minus the bookshelf, exclamation mark, material thickness. I'll hit tab, and we should be in good shape, and we still get that same 59 1/4. That lets me know that everything's okay. And a little bit later on, we'll start playing around with our parameters. We already know all our categories. It's just making sure that we get everything plugged in correctly. So now that we have that taken care of, its x position, hey, I really don't want to mess with any other parameters here as far as my y. But I do want to make sure that this height is adjusted properly. So we can now also say equals. And actually, we won't mess with its position. We'll keep that the same. Let's jump to sizing. So go to sizing. 0.75, we know that needs to equal material thickness. Equals material thickness, right? And that's its size moving left and right in our case. So we hit tab up. Looks like we get off here just a little bit. It's because we didn't reference our bookcase. So reference the bookcase or bookshelf, and that error message should go away, and we should remain at 0.75. So if you ever do that, a lot of times when you get that message, it's because we didn't reference the correct component or subcomponent. So this one, we know 12 inches is going to need to be our depth because it's going in the y direction. So I'm going to say equals bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet depth, tab. Awesome. No warning message. And last but not least, let's do the same thing for our size here, or our height basically. So I want to say equals the bookshelf, exclamation mark, cabinet height. Again, making sure everything's spelled correctly. Hit tab. We should be in good shape. All these values remain the same. Nothing really jumped around in here, so we're in good shape. So that takes care of our left and our right. So in our next lesson, we're going to go ahead and apply some formulas to our top and our back, and I'll show you how we can tackle getting some repeating and copying with our shelf in the following lesson. So I'll meet you in the next lesson.